What's up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Chardonnay and I am back with another sewing video. Today I want to share with you all the details that went into this shacket. Now, I know for the returning folks, you all are probably like, we've already seen this video, but not quite like this. My last video was a semi sew along, walking you all through, just kind of give you all a pattern review and what I thought about the pattern and things of that nature. And this one, I approached the process a little bit differently. And actually, this jacket is not for me. It is for one of my homegirls and one of my favorite nail techs. Shout out to her, by the way. I'm going to put a little video up on the screen so you all can see some of her work. She always hooks up my nails. And the last time that I went to go get my nails done, she seen the blue shacket that I had made for myself. And she was like, make me one. And I was like, say less. Okay, so I just got back from outside from taking a few photos and videos. I had to let her know, yeah, I'm done with your jacket, but I have to go get some photos and videos of this. I think that's the fun part about being able to sew up and make your own clothes, is to also be able to flaunt and rock the pieces that you make. So I absolutely had to go outside and make sure that I captured the details of this shacket. But a few things I did differently this go round, and so I wanted to make sure that I also sat down and quickly chatted with you all to just kind of talk through what was different this go round within this process. So the first and major thing that I think I did differently was I approached the burrito method completely differently. I didn't even do the burrito method. I would say I would call this the Shardy method because I kind of just did my own thing. I know that when I initially made the shacket for myself, that was the part that I remember struggling with the most. And I was like, oh goodness, I'm making this for somebody else. I don't want this to look all janky on the inside. I want it to look just as good on the inside as it is on the outside. So what I went ahead and did was I attached the lining the same time that it was time to stitch up the front yoke and the back yoke. I just went ahead and attached the lining directly to these pieces. And then I also purchased some duckbill scissors. And once I had the front and back yoke sewn into this shacket, I went ahead and cut along the seam allowance as close as I possibly could to just kind of cut off that extra fabric so that way you wouldn't see the kind of ragged and rigid edge. And honestly, I think that it works. I think that it works because of this particular type of fabric that I'm using. This fabric is like a more medium weight fleece fabric. I got this fabric from my local Joann's Fabric. And so I think because of, I don't know if I can show you all. I'll insert some footage so that way you can see, but just the edging of this fabric is already very just like rigid. It's kind of rough, and fleece fabric tends to be a little bit more forgiving. Like you really can't see the stitches or even like top stitching when you sew with this fabric. So I think that's why this works for this particular shacket and I can kind of get away with it. And if it's to my understanding, I think the burrito method is so that way you kind of hide those seams on the inside and it makes it look a little bit more neat. But I think with just taking this approach, it still looks pretty good in my opinion. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. What is the purpose of the burrito method? I could probably Google it by the time somebody leaves a comment, but um, that's my understanding of what it is. And I just hope that me taking this different approach, hopefully it doesn't just interfere with, just the wear of the jacket. Like she still has like longevity for how she can wear this piece. But that was the main thing that I did differently when sewing up this jacket. The other thing that was different for me was the buttons. Okay, now initially with the first jacket that I sewed up, the buttons was using the buttonhole feature on my machine. That was the first time that I was using it. So I kind of struggled throughout the first go round of making this jacket. This next go around, I felt like something just clicked. Okay, like I feel like I don't know if it's just me getting more practice and experience and more familiar with my machine, but I really truly felt like this time I had a lot easier go round with making the buttonholes for this jacket. Now, what did throw me for a loop that I did not expect throughout this time around was actually finding the correct buttons for this jacket, because as I was searching for the fabric that she wanted inside of the fabric store, then we went over what type of buttons did she want to actually have on the jacket, and she told me that she wanted both tortoise and gold buttons. Now, I was able to find at least 3 buttons at my local Joann's, but then when I was looking around the store, I realized that's all they had was 3 buttons. But I figured, you know what? It's probably going to take me maybe a week or two to put this together. I'll just come back in the next couple of weeks and just pick up the rest of the buttons. Came back the next couple of weeks, they had not restocked these buttons. So I was like, man, I don't want to order some tortoise buttons. I'm trying to limit myself on the amount of fabric that I'm buying, so I would have had to pay for extra shipping to just order the buttons online. I'm impatient. I really didn't want to wait for these buttons, so I was like, all right, let me go check out another local fabric store. I headed over to Stone Mountain Daughter. That is the next closest store to me, and also, shout out to the team in there. The young lady who helped me the day that I went in, she was so patient with me. I think that's the other thing about other sewists, craft people, or just people in this space. They just get it. They know how something as small as a button can either make or break an outfit, because she was just patient with me as I kind of rummaged and looked through the inventory buttons that they had over there, because they also didn't have tortoise buttons. So we were just kind of like looking through all the buttons that they did have to see if I can come across something that would possibly work. I didn't have the Shacket in hand with me when I went inside of the store. So I ended up landing on these buttons, which is a pink and purple button. And I figured when I was in the store looking around, I'm like, all right, like, yeah, my Shacket, not my Shacket, her Shacket has um, hints of pink, purple, and orange in the Shacket. So I figured I could get away with using this pink and purple button. Once I got home and got the button close up to the Shacket, I was like, oh no, oh no, 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 this will not work, because I feel like, to me, in my opinion, it's just a little bit too busy and it kind of clashes with the print of this Shacket. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to another local fabric store, because I refuse to pay for shipping just for buttons. So I went to another local store, and I didn't mind going to another store because let me tell you, when I go in to get my nails done, my girl, she hooks me up. Like if I want the extra razzle dazzle or nail drip, she will hook me up. So I'm like, all right, let me make sure that I get exactly what it is that she wants. So I went over to another local fabric store, which is Piedmont Fabrics, ran into the same thing again, where they did not have a tortoise button. I thought tortoise buttons would be something that, like, it's like a black or white button. You know, I thought that would be like a standard button that most fabric stores have. Maybe it is one of those standard buttons that most fabric stores had, and maybe they just ran out. But when I visited both of these stores during the time that I was sewing this up, they were all out of these buttons. And so same thing again. I was like, all right, let me just see what you do have and what other alternative options I could possibly use with this Shacket. And this time around, I bought the Shacket with me, so it kind of helped me kind of gauge if the button would go with this jacket. And so I landed on these pink transparent buttons, which I think pair well with this jacket, because you can kind of see through the button and actually see the print of the material beneath it, and it doesn't really clash with the tortoise buttons that I already had on this Shacket. I went ahead and applied the tortoise brown buttons to the pockets, because that's the first couple of steps, and you really don't need to apply the rest of the buttons until you get towards the end of it. So once I got towards the end of putting this together, that's where I was kind of just like on the hunt, looking for the right buttons to pair with this piece. I think I could have been done with this Shacket a lot sooner if it wasn't for these dang on buttons. But anyways, I landed on these, and I think that it goes really well with the Shacket. Something else that I ended up learning this go round with sewing up this pattern is I got a little bit of experience applying a jean button, which I have here on the sleeves of this shacket because she told me she wanted gold buttons. And when I was looking through all the buttons, most buttons tend to be made out of like this, I guess, plastic material. I'm not sure what this is made out of, but most of the buttons weren't giving what it needed to give, or at least what I was looking for. They kind of look cheap when you kind of put it next to this fabric. And I was like, the only thing that really looked well, in my opinion, were these gold jean buttons. So I went ahead and grabbed these and I applied these jean buttons to the cuffs of this shacket. And I was this close to buying the tool that most people use to apply this particular button to garments. But as I was in the store, a few of the ladies was like, girl, you don't even need it. You can get away with just kind of pushing the back piece through the fabric and then hammering the jean button on. But when I hammered the jean button on, they informed me to kind of hammer it on a soft surface so that way I wouldn't scratch up the front of this button. And that worked out just fine. So I'm super happy that that worked because I don't know how soon I'll be working with jeans or how often I'll be applying um, jean buttons for me to buy that $20 tool. But for just this one-off project, that worked perfectly. So I got a little bit of a new skill in within this process with applying this jean button. And then the last kind of piece that was new for me within sewing up this shacket was the collar. Now on the collar, I used a little bit of the remaining lining for the collar. I was on Instagram and I was just looking at other people who kind of sewed up this shacket in this pattern, and I'll put the photo here on the screen of someone else who made this similar pattern. And I noticed that she put like a fun print on the collar, and I was like, oh, that'd be dope, and that's a great idea to use kind of the remaining lining that I had. And I think that it'll be so cute if she goes ahead and pops her collar. You'll see this little pop of color in the back. So that was something else that I thought was really neat and kind of adds a little bit of, razzle dazzle to this shacket. So I really enjoyed making this. Something else that I learned within this process was I unintentionally put this like pressure on myself to like do a really good job. Like with my shacket, I was like, all right, like I'm the only person who's probably going to see the inside lining, but I was like, all right, I want to hurry up and get this done. I want to make sure she can wear it while it's still cool enough. I don't want to wait until like the warmer season comes around and then she can't wear it until next fall or winter. I really wanted to like make sure I got this done, and I was putting this like unintentional pressure to just move really fast with this. And I had to remind myself, like, girl, she is not rushing me to get this done. She just said, make her one. She's not trying to make it, she's not trying to wear this to like a special occasion or anything of that nature. So I had to continue to remind myself throughout this process, like, girl, just enjoy the process. Like it's not that deep, it's not that serious. So I don't know, after I got through making this, I was like, I don't know how often I'll be sewing up other pieces for people, because after I got done with this, I was like, I don't even know if I want to give this to her. Okay, I think it's cute and I kind of want to keep it for myself, but I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be a selfish sewist. That's the other good part of being able to sew and make your own clothes, is I could just go make one for myself. And if it's ever a moment and somebody asks me to make something for them, I'm gonna be like, look, here's the pattern. If I can do it, you can do it too. Okay. So I think either way, if I have the time and the capacity to sew up something for somebody, I will. If not, I'll be like, look, you can go ahead and make your own. But yeah, that's all I want to share with you all. I have, again, really been enjoying just this process of sewing up pieces and just, working with my hands in a completely different way. It is such a exciting and exhilarating and unexplainable feeling when you make something and then you put it out into the world and you see other people like engaging and interacting with it, whether it is a jacket or a film project, it just, I don't know, y'all. It's just something inside of me that just gets me super excited, and I can't wait to pass this jacket over to her. I just really hope that she enjoys wearing this jacket just as much as I had fun putting it together. I hope that you all are also enjoying watching these types of videos and just hearing me talk through my process of putting it together and just different things that I'm learning and different tools and techniques and all the things. Again, I am really just enjoying this process, and this is a way for me to challenge myself in a whole new way. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in my next video. Bye.